Hi folks, welcome to your Gersnet Friday preview pod, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson, and I don't mean we're previewing the day of Friday, because this is Friday. I would have to do my Friday preview pod on a Thursday. You would think this is the eve of Christmas Eve's Eve, and it is quite weird though, isn't it? It is weird with the days at this time of year. The calendar starts to kind of get a bit hazy as it's coming to the end for a year. We enter that festive period. Rangers are playing on Sunday. We're playing on an actual Sunday, which is Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day always feels like a Sunday to me anyway. And if you do Christmas Day properly in terms of indulgence, Boxing Day is a bit of a Sunday as well, because you're stuck on the couch bemoaning the fact that you ate and drank so much the previous day, and then you soon realise that the best way to cope with that is by eating and drinking even more. I might be speaking personally here on Boxing Day itself. So there's three kind of Sunday feeling days on a trot coming up, but at Gersnet, if Rangers are playing in one of those days, you're getting a preview pod. Frankie the boss trying to hide the fact that Gersnet is down to a skeleton staff by putting out the fattest member of that staff. If this is a skeleton, then there's certainly a lot of meat on them bones, if not a lot of fat on top of it. Yeah, just speaking to you folks a few hours after Philip Clement gave the traditional Rangers Friday presser. Speaking to the Scottish media ahead of our really vital trip to Fir Park, Motherwell on Sunday, 12 noon kick-off, live on Sky. If you're not going to the game, which I won't be, I will be on that sofa, just get into Christmas with a last dose of the nerves. We don't know the situation. We don't know the situation that we'll be going into on Sunday. Will we be hoping to win to go top of the league? Livingston are going to Parkhead tomorrow. Livingston, who've scored like one goal in the past 2 months, very much bottom of the table. So you're thinking the chances are Celtic are going to win that, despite having lost their last two league games. I did say in my post-match reaction pod on Wednesday night after our 2-0 win over St Johnstone at Ibrox that we're just getting far too close, and if we knew anything about Peter Lawwell over the past couple of decades at Parkhead, there would be some sort of off-field announcement. Something would start building up. He needs to battle any chance of Rangers looking like they might be winning the title in some kind of off-field way, and I don't think the concession to the Green Brigade today is any great coincidence. The Green Brigade, Celtic's most vocal support, previously banned from Parkhead for political stuff, Palestine, whatever, they will now be back. They've been allowed back in, and they'll feel vindicated. They'll come in. The most vocal supporters coming into the stadium tomorrow. Almost, I wouldn't say, obviously they weren't the problem at Rugby Park when Celtic lost that game, but at home last week to Hearts, they'll definitely feel that we'll come in here, we'll make a difference. Now that sounds, I know a lot, I'm only mentioning this, because Celtic, we need to get in front of them to win the league. They're the team that's stopping us winning the league title. And also because I think a lot of Rangers supporters have been underestimating this. I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter today saying, how is a bunch of guys waving Palestine flags going to make, certain Celtic players better players? Us slagging them off will probably help them become better players for a start. But we've seen it in action at Ibrox. We've seen it happening in the reverse sense. It was a few seasons ago. Steven Gerrard was the manager. Remember, we had that Scottish Cup replay at home to Kilmarnock, beat them 5-0. Steve Clarke's Kilmarnock and a few wee boys amongst the Union Bears started singing some really horrible sectarian song aimed at Steve Clarke. The board came out and slapped them down for it. Now, listen, as I've said many times before, generally, I think the Union Bears are absolutely fantastic. And they kind of proved why when they went on strike, feeling that the board had overreacted to them, or they didn't take kindly to it anyway, the official statement that was coming out, having a pop at them. I can't remember the exact details of how the board reacted, but they certainly censured the Union Bears. So they just down tools, as they saw it. They came to the game, obviously, but they didn't do their singing, they didn't get the pyro going, no flags or anything. And I think it was the next round of the Scottish Cup, the replay against Aberdeen. We went up to Pittodrie and we drew with Aberdeen. The next round of the Scottish Cup, they certainly put us out that season after a replay, and it was at Ibrox. Maybe it was a league game, I can't remember, but we get beat. We get beat at Ibrox, and it was like a library. The Union Bears are saying, right, well, that's fine, somebody else can make the atmosphere tonight. And nobody did. And Rangers were terrible, and I don't think it was a complete coincidence. So I know how much the vocal, the singing section, if you like, how much of a difference that can make to a team. Even a team that is, Gerrard's Rangers were destined for great things. But so I think that's definitely. I think Celtic are almost guaranteed the 3 points. They'll be it's like kind of creating a fake atmosphere of celebration. These fans have triumphed as far as they're concerned. So as silly as we might think it is, as much as we might like to slag them, and you've always got to slag your rivals because they certainly spend pretty time slagging us. I think that's sort of a massive effect on Celtic, and they should be guaranteed the 3 points tomorrow, although obviously we hope not. Either way, it's really vital that Rangers maintain their own momentum, and the manager to that end today, Philip Clement, was discussing the injury situation, and it remains that Kemar Roofe and John Lundstrom will both be out. They will be out of the squad for Sunday's trip. The manager wouldn't specify how long either player was going to be out altogether. He didn't know. Just said they'd have to do the scans and properly analyse each injury situation with each player before they could specify that. But they're not going to make this trip. And we're obviously hoping. I had actually hoped that it was all a bit kind of smoke and mirrors, and the manager was, exacerbating the potential for Lundstrom in particular being out long term, so he could have him back for this Sunday. Never mind getting him back in for, say, randomly, for example. If I had to pick a fixture out the air just now to exemplify what I'm talking about when we go to Parkhead on the 30th of December. But no, it wasn't. It is bad. The manager he didn't go into more detail about Kemar Roofe's injury, but he went into more detail explaining that they were going to have to look into it more and assess Kemar's problem, go deeper to find out what the problem is. And this is the first thing I'd like to deal with, the Kemar Roofe injury and the reaction to that from myself and fellow fans. I fell out with a few people about this. I'm not big on Twitter. I'm not, as much as I'm verbose, as much as I like to use any format to hand out my opinions and talk nonsense about football to kind of get it out of my system. I'm not big on creating a Twitter persona or whatever, and the way to do that is just to be really brief and really aggressive and just in a way that doesn't work for me. And real life's not like that. Real life's complicated, it's nuanced, and I just like to discuss stuff. But I did it the other night. I did the very thing. No, the manager was boiling, as he said in Wednesday night's post-match presser, about the red card tackle on John Lundstrom, which, as he said today, had Lundstrom had his feet planted in the ground, it would have been a leg breaker. The St Johnstone fella would have broke his leg. It was a horrible tackle. And he was right also about I didn't know it was Kieran Dowell, but there was another horrible tackle in that game, and I remember thinking, that's not a yellow, that's another red. And it was almost like the ref didn't want to give out the red because he'd just given one out. But the manager was saying, I'm assuming that's the one he was talking about, that it was another red card tackle in the game on, it's not a tackle, more of an assault on Kieran Dowell. So we could be missing yet another midfielder. But the manager was boiling in his reaction, and that's why he kind of lashed out talking about tackles in Scottish football, and yet another one of his players being kicked off the park. This is what he was saying today. Almost saying that thing of I'm forced to do post-match pressers, and obviously I'm going to be angry for if anything bad's happened in the game, and I might say something that I regret. But for myself, I said something I regretted when it came to Kemar Roofe, because I'd heard. I think we all thought when Kemar Roofe breaks down, we're all like, that could be it. That could be the last time we see him, because he's got so many injury problems. You can't see his contract being renewed at the end of this season, or maybe he'll not even last. Maybe he'll go away in January. But what got me, and it's probably me projecting my own kind of disappointment, my frustration at seeing Kemar Roofe breaking down. Just the fact that it's Kemar Roofe, just the fact that he's so brilliant. We all understand that the only reason Kemar Roofe is at Rangers is because he's got injury problems. But that means that when he is playing, you pretty quickly see how sometimes world class he is, and you can't help hoping just get some more out of him. But then he goes, he breaks down, he's injured again, and you're gutted. But what happened was I heard, a few people just being particularly almost gleeful, almost kind of enjoying the fact that they could write him off after that. It's like, that's him done. That's him by way. Waste a wage or whatever like that. Get rid. That's the last we'll be seeing of him. And it was the nature, the manner of it. And I thought, it's just like 6 days since he secure their first ever win against Spanish opposition in Spain with that kind of Gerd Muller-esque goal down there in the muck, swinging about in the 6-yard box where the boots are flying, keeping his head while all about him are losing theirs. And then he's come on in that League Cup final on the Sunday just a few days previously, and even more recently when we were going into that St Johnstone game, and he's come on and just his game management is absolutely phenomenal. Even if you just remember that bit what it looked like, Rangers had mistimed a pass, it was going to go out for a bye kick. This is where we're 1-0 up and the game's entering its final stage. I think it was like 2 minutes of normal time were left. Shinnie was just going to see the ball out, and Roof just gets in there and knocks it off Shinnie and wins a corner. This makes a corner for Rangers out of nothing. Even just comes down to getting the clock counted down. We come on, Roof against Dundee in our previous home league game. And okay, we're 3-1 up at half time, but we're down to 10 men on the stroke of half time. We come into the second half and Kamar Roof comes on. And this is a game that when we won it, it meant Celtic get beat the next day, and it meant we gained 2 points on them. It was absolutely vital that we saw that game out. And if you want to see a game out, there's nobody better than Kamar Roof. He just come on for that game and just the fouls he was taking, the way he was taking the ball, controlling the ball, his positioning, absolutely phenomenal. Just good old-fashioned forward play, holding the ball up. And this is before we even think about that goal he scored against Standard Liège, arguably the greatest goal Rangers, greatest individual goal perhaps we've ever scored, particularly in European football. And his contribution being the top league scorer, I think, wasn't he, during 55 season. I know that it's a waste of wages when he's not playing. The same can be said for any player, but I would happily have paid that money. I know Rangers in particular, we're probably more sensitive about financial wastage than any other club in Scotland by a mile, and will be probably for the rest of my life after everything that happened in 2012. But it was just the tenor of some of the kind of, that's him done, get him out. What do we love? What do we appreciate? It was very much the people seeing the kind of price of everything but the value of nothing sort of thing, the cost of everything but the value of nothing. I just thought, no, number one, let's just not write him off, because it could be fine. It could be fine, before even the winter break comes in the 2nd of January. But certainly not. Let's not write him off until we know he's a write-off. And we saw the guy going down the tunnel, and I've done the same thing myself. You've wondered, is it psychological? Is it a touch of the hypochondria, as one of my pals on Twitter was saying? And I would imagine he would be super sensitive about any kind of injury, any kind of strain, ache or pain. He would be thinking, that's me going to be out for 6 months again because of everything that's happened with him. But the way he plays football when he does play, you don't get to be that good. And you don't play that well in your short spells of fitness if you're not fully committed. And sometimes I actually think that is Kamar Roof's problem as well. He just goes steaming into everything as soon as he comes back off the bench or back off the treatment table. He doesn't mess about. So I have had, and I think various managers, and it's Clement today as well. We always read between the lines. We always really read into particularly the statements from Rangers managers. I think various Rangers managers have said stuff or made kind of oblique statements about Kamar Roof that make you think, is he a bit precious? Is he's not trying as hard as he should? No, whatever. But for me, when somebody does something great for Rangers, I feel it should be a long, long way down the road before we give them a hard time, before we're glad to see the back of them, kind of thing. It's like, what are we here for? What are we? I think when you pursue the angle of practicality first, of how much money is he getting paid, blah blah blah, it's not very long before if you keep following that argument through. It's like, why are we even bothering as fans, as people? Why do we even bother with us supporting Rangers? Why are we going along there and paying money to go and watch people? It's a kind of cynicism which is really easy. It's really easy to talk in a cynical manner about players at your own club. I remember the same thing happening when Alan McCoy found out his wages. He was getting $1 million, or but take it down to 800,000 or something. The wages he was getting when he was manager of us after liquidation, and seemed to be holding the club up. And it was like Alan McCoy was looking like a massive human being at that point, like a spiritual, moral leader. So there's plenty of people or want to find any way they could possibly find to shoot him down. I thought, well, to me, he deserves to be getting 8 million a year because he's carrying Rangers and everything that goes with Rangers on his back. But it led to me being a bit petty, and I said that people who didn't understand what he'd done were kind of ingrates and what was it? Ingrates and stupid, basically. I can't remember my exact words. And it was nasty. It wasn't nice. It wasn't nice. So you get that thing where people were just like, well, I think Kamaru should go. Are you having a go at me? And they come back and they talk to you. If I see anybody saying in on Twitter or whatever that I don't agree with, especially if it's a fellow Rangers fan, I just move on. Unless they're actually atting me, unless they're actually sending it to me, I'll just move on, because there's enough reasons to fall out with people in the world these days. I'm really nasty about politics, the party politics, and the way Britain's been run. Blah blah blah. I can, we can all get into that, and nobody ever has a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with any of the, people on the other side of the political spectrum. From me, if they're supporting Rangers, just go out my way to be friendly. So I regret saying that. And you know what happens with these things? I had a pal. Still pals, hopefully not seen him for a while, but used to work together, great guy, and he liked a bit of dust up, liked a bit of scrap, even into his 30s, into his 40s, and I'd be like, what are you all about? And but we were, a crowd was out for a night out, and this pub we were in the town centre, there was a table, and just a wee bit away from us in the same boozer, suddenly it erupted. There's a couple of guys fighting. And it's one of the things that just the drink, it get quelled as quickly as it started. Bouncers come in, threw the guys out, and they're probably their best of mates afterwards. Just be the drink. But my mate, he comes back for the bog. He'd been in the toilet at the time. He's like, "What the hell? What happened there?" Just tell him, been a bit of a fight. He's like, "Oh, I wish I missed that. I'd have been in there." You're like, "Why? It had nothing to do with you. Why do you want to be in there?" I always think there comes time in your life you might have to take a swing at somebody. You might have to stick up for yourself. You don't want you don't want a criminal records. You might have to go to the judge and say it was self-defence, and you don't want them looking at your record and thinking, you seem to be self-defending yourself quite a lot, mate. I think 6 months in the barrel for you. But I hear this thing. I just want to get involved if there was a fight, and that on Twitter, on social media, that's but 3/4 of it is people they don't actually care about Rangers or you or anything like that. It's just, if there's a fight, right, I'll go in there and I'll get on somebody's side and I'll slag the other bit. And it was me that was getting slagged, and I was fat shamed. I was, what was I called? A condescending calorie huffer. I don't know if it's meant to be calorie chuffer. I'm a huffing the calories. I don't know what it is, but thanks, folks. Thanks. I thought you would have told me. Why didn't anybody tell me I was fat? You know what I mean? It's just absolute nightmare. Thank God I've got my full head of hair and great eyesight, and else I'd be really worried. But I was getting fat shamed and all that, and I eventually had to block the guy. But he's just joining in on the back of people having a go back at me for calling them stupid for wanting with a Kamaru Roof. And I can see, you can't argue with the fact that Kamaru Roof is injured so often. It's hard to justify renewing his contract, but I also think you can't argue that when he does appear, he's just bloody great. He's fantastic, and it's maybe the only way Rangers are going to have a player of that class is if he's injured. I think it also speaks to the way a lot of us seem to understand or get excited, upset or otherwise about the squad, about the first team squad. We want to have a kind of set idea. There's 11 set players for the 11 places, and then there's your second 11, and they'll come in for the last 5 minutes of a game that we're winning 3-0, and they will start cup games against lower league opposition, and that's it. It's never has worked like that, and it never will. Not since the days when substitutes were introduced, or we got to the days of like 2 and 3 substitutes being allowed. It's very much a squad game, and the way that the Kamaru Roof situation sums up how you work that. You have a guy who's injured all the time, but he gets just fit enough that you can bring him into. But I mean, he was backing up Dessers brilliantly. Dessers doesn't have his full fitness yet, if he ever is going to achieve full fitness, but he's starting to look a bit of a player. And then you bring on Kamaru Roof in his stead. Basically, Dessers scores against Real Betis. Kamaru Roof comes on, scores against Real Betis over there. It's a brilliant kind of dovetailing of two players for that one position. So it's really gutting when we lose one of them, but that's how you keep a guy happy almost a lot of the time. Is like he's injured anyway, so he's struggling for fitness, so it just suits him to be coming on as a substitute. That's what you're keeping the squad happy. You can have too many players, obviously, too many first choice type players, as Chelsea would tell you. But I remember when Nathan Patterson, for example, was emerged onto the scene at Rangers and was clearly brilliant, was clearly a first team level player. And with James Tavernier, who is a legend at Rangers and is never injured, people were freaking out. Like it was a bad thing. What are we going to do? How are we going to... We have to get rid of this. It was like, we have to get rid of this guy. Either Tav or Patterson, and we needed the money, so we did get rid of Nathan Patterson because we got much more money for him than we would have got for Tav, even though Nathan Patterson didn't play as much. But straight away, you're like, well, Tav's never injured, so it's a real problem. Not, isn't it? It's great to have. It's great to have as many good players as possible. And straight away, Nathan Patterson gets himself a club fine and a bit of club discipline because he broke COVID rules or lockdown rules at that flat in the West End where the players stayed. So right, that's it. You're dropped. You're not playing for the first team. You're off the bench. You're back to the reserves. They teach you a lesson. First thing that happens is Tav gets injured in the first half against Royal Antwerp in Belgium in a Europa League last 16 game. Or last 32. And we don't have Nathan Patterson to come on in his place, And Nathan Patterson come on for the second leg. I mean, no harm done. We won the game over in Belgium anyway. But you'd Borna Barisic taking the penalties, which was weird and great fun beyond all belief because he was starting rammies with the goalkeepers and stuff. But they were starting it. He was going to finish it. But so Nathan Patterson comes in for the second leg. Suddenly we decided that we were going to let him off with that. And the first thing he does when he comes on at half time is just go the full length of the park and score to basically seal the tie for Rangers. So these wee situations, this is how it works. It's never tidy. Players will be injured, or players, you'll have two players for one position, one has to get dropped because you can't fit them in anywhere else. But right now we have two left backs that are, everybody has agreed, if we could combine the two of them, take the speed and perhaps the dribbling and the youthfulness of Ridvan Yilmaz and combine it with Borna Barisic's crossing and his ability to hit the byline, and then we'd have a player who wouldn't be at Rangers because he would be away as well. He'd be worth far too much. We couldn't afford to hold on to him. But I don't know, maybe Yilmaz is worth a wee shout in the sitting two in midfield, because we don't have John Lundstrom anymore. We were finished that game. I said in the post-match reaction pod tonight that we'd played the entire second half with Dujon Sterling and Kieran Dowell. God, it's been so long since I've seen Kieran Dowell playing. I forgot the guy's name. But we didn't, because Dujon Sterling went into right back for the last 5 minutes of the game, because as soon as James Tavernier scored the goal that sealed the points, off he went. The manager was giving him a standing ovation, but he changed it. The manager changed that. I don't know if he's given him a standing ovation or Tav had noticed. Outside, they've changed the 27 to 28 on the silhouette of the League Cup that's above the old Rangers shop on that corner between the Copeland and the Govan, but they haven't changed the flags that are on the islands and the dual carriageway Edmondson Drive outside the main stand. They're still at 27. I don't know if Tav just thought to himself, right, I've had to score 2 goals in the semi-final, I've had to score the only goal in the final, now I'm going to have to go and get a bloody step ladder. I need to get this game won first against St Johnstone. Bang, penalty, right, that's the 3 points in the bag. Can I go now, boss? I on you go, Tav. And he's been in, probably into the garage or whatever, under the main stand. He's got the step ladder and he's out there changing the flags for 27 to 28. The man has to do everything himself. But I think the manager was bringing him off to get him the standing ovation that he thoroughly deserved, James Tavernier, the other night. But by the time of his post-match press, I feel it would come on. So, no, I was just getting him off because I didn't want any more of our key players injured. Because he was making the point about John Lundstrom being brutalised. Now, he didn't dial back on that today. Again, his brilliant press conference style. Philippe Clement clarified what he meant. He clarified that there was 2 brutal tackles in that game, and he hadn't changed his mind on that. He didn't see how, anybody who watched the game couldn't fail to see that there was 2 red card tackles in that game, and that the tackle on Lundstrom was horrible, but he wasn't saying that didn't happen in other leagues, and he wasn't trying to have a go, for example, at Motherwell, saying that that's their style or whatever. So he was really good, didn't dial back, but did clarify. He also clarified when, I think it was Jane Lewis asked him about, was it his plans for the transfer window, or what players he fancied, and he was like, no, our plans, or how we see it, whatever. He might know. He was talking last week about Joshua Barry, the Rangers Review. He was saying to him, no, I shouldn't use the word story. Maybe story's wrong. But English is my second language, blah blah blah. But he knows his determiners that kind of masquerade his pronouns. He was really sharp with that there, because he's putting forward today this whole thing of the club as a family. The players who are injured, as well as the players who are fit, all part of the same team, all part of the family. They need to back each other up, even if they're on the sidelines, even if you're not getting picked for the first team. And it's not about him. He's just part of the team with the board as well, and obviously the fans. We're all involved in that. He's good with the pressers. Come on, he really is. Even when he was trying to tell us that Rangers should be quite chuffed to get into the Conference League. Turns out he was only doing that to mask the fact he was going to dominate Group C before he'd finished with it. Fantastic. So, good stuff from the manager again today. What does that mean for Sunday? It means, as he said himself today, he doesn't want to talk about injuries. He always does that. I don't want to talk about injuries. I just want to talk about football. Which is a weird one for somebody who's trying to include everybody in the team. It's like he's writing off all the players who are injured. It's really, it's a good one, but it works. It creates this sense of momentum, because that team he put out the other night, the first 11 that Rangers put out the other night, even though Kamar Roof only lasted 15 minutes. They had that game totally under control with 5 changes to the previous lineup. I don't know if we're at the time yet we're going to put Sima through the middle. That might be for Parkhead. I don't know if that ever happens. How good is it to have somebody in the left wing? Sorry, Ryan Kent. I mean, when you were good, you were really good. But to have somebody, after having a player on the left who was too good not to be played, but did or nothing with his lack of numbers, as they say. To have Sima, who just does nothing but numbers, absolutely tremendous. So I'm imagining, after him getting taken off early the other night, he is definitely going to be playing at Fir Park, and Jack Butland will be playing, and James Tavernier will be playing, and Connor Goldson will be playing. After that, it's getting a bit... Dessers is going to start, you would imagine, up front, and he's coming on to a game now, isn't he, Cyril? I mean, I think that goal he scored against Real Betis, again, we're not going to have him slagged ever again. Cyril Dessers, he's not going to get hounded out the door. We're going to need to be really careful about how we talk about Cyril, even if he does eventually leave Rangers with a lack of goals. But he's getting... That was kind of hero status stuff, that goal. Absolute class. But then he's just calmly scored again the other night. It was the way he took it and the way he celebrated as well. There was an air about him when he celebrated that goal against St Johnstone. He's certainly enjoying the moment, but it was kind of, yeah, I do this. You seem to be worried about me, but I do this. There was no kind of, vindication. Yeah, that's what I'm all about. You slagged me, there you go, I'm scoring goals. There was nothing back at the supporters. It was just enjoying it with the supporters. You remember, for example, when a certain Sam Lammer scored that goal up at Dens Park, he went off his nut, and quite rightly so. He was really enjoying it. That was just... He was kind of into his bad spell by that point, Sam Lammers, after having scored a few goals early stages in the season. We'd all decided by that point that he was useless. So he scored a rasper up at Dens Park, and the way he celebrated, proper kind of, I've arrived, I am a good player, I told you. Nothing like that with Dessers. I love it. Just total confidence. Aye, player, I'll do your job. I always thought I would. That's him one goal away from double figures before Christmas. Hopefully he does it before Christmas Day as well, gets himself into double figures for Rangers. So he's obviously going to be playing. You've got Matondo. Is Matondo due to come back in? There's no... Ryan Jack's not coming back. Raskin's not coming back, according to the manager. So I don't know if it's going to be Dujon Sterling, and I will get it's Kieran Dill. I mean, he's got that song, is it Dill. You're going to have to just get yourself a goal or something, Kieran. A bit like the one you scored against Livingston. That would do fine. You think that'd be enough for somebody to remember your name, but you're going to have to do better than that, mate. But maybe it's going to be Dill and Sterling. I think that they're starting to sitting in midfield. Maybe you'll even change the formation, the manager. You don't know. But I hope it's Balogun back in. And by the way, talking of Leon Balogun and talking of the injury situation, yous are all posting the video on Twitter. Look at him jumping. He's jumping over him. He's jumping over Yilmaz. We can't afford that. That could be 2 players out injured. The way things are going for us at Airbus, that could be 2 players done for the season. They'll never appear. Their football career's over. Horror freak injury. League Cup final. What about, who was the guy talking about League Cup final injuries? Who was the fella? Was it Steve Morrow? Played for Arsenal. Steve Morrow, was that his name? It was the celebrations of the League Cup win for Arsenal against... was it the year they played Sheffield Wednesday in both the finals? Or they won both the cup finals anyway. Domestic cups in England. It was 93, I think, Arsenal. That's where you get fall off Tony Adams' shoulders or got chucked off him or something. He broke his arm and that was him injured. Anyway, that's the kind of thing. We shouldn't be taking any chances. We should, as soon as we win a game, we should just all get in the cryo chambers. They should bring the cryo chambers onto the pitch. Rangers players get in them and off they go. Motherwell. I've been through the whole team, been through every area. Basically, I don't know what's happening on the right-hand side, but I'm hoping Scott Wright is going to be there. We've got Ross McCausland, obviously. Maybe Scott Wright's going to come in on the left to give Seaman a break. We're hoping Todd Cantwell is going to be number 10. Has to be if we're so light in other areas of the midfield. Sam Lammers maybe worth a go up front, just out and out up front. I know he's got no record of goal scoring, but maybe that's playing in other positions in the front area of the park. Maybe if you actually give him the centre forward berth, he'll turn out a wee hat trick like Fashion Sakala. Maybe we were doubts about Fashion Sakala, and it was a wee trip to Fir Park and a wee hat trick there that sorted him out. Motherwell, they're second bottom of the table. We've kind of went in opposite directions since the last time when we went to them at Ibrox this season. Motherwell had drawn their first game of the season up at Dens, and then they'd 3 wins in the trot in August. I think it was they won. I think like home to Hibs, away to Hearts, home to Kilmarnock. Really good run they went on. And when we played them at Ibrox in September, it was just they'd lost the previous week, just 1-0 to St Mirren, and then they lost 1-0 to us. But you know, it's Stuart Kettlewell going on long and hard after the game about how he's always going to put his team out to play open, attractive football and have a go, even if they were going to play Rangers at Ibrox or Celtic at Parkhead. But they haven't won a game since. They've just been right. We get booed off the park that day for winning 1-0. We'd beaten Betis in the previous game on the Thursday night at home. We'd beaten Real Betis at home, and it looked like there was a chance Mr. Beale had turned things round. But that was a flash in the pan. And the following Saturday, 6 days later, a week later, Michael Beale was sacked and he was gone. Motherwell, it's just went right downhill for them. They are now second bottom of the table within that relegation playoff spot. They're still 4 or 5 points clear of Livingston, who are rock bottom. But it's down that they've played their full 18 games. They've conceded more goals than any other team in the top flight. It's 29 goals, I think, they've conceded. So that open style, I don't know how it's working for them. They've drawn a few games. They've drawn quite a few games of late. I think they've lost 1 and drawn 4 of their last 5. But yeah, there's about 4 teams down there just above the last spot in the league, and there's only about 3 points between them. But few of them have got like 2 games in hand, some of them have got 1 game in hand, so it's looking bad for Motherwell long term. We've just got to hope that they're not starting any kind of comeback against ourselves, because Motherwell, they drew with Celtic at Parkhead. You know, when we were that the day we beat Dundee. That was before. That was before they beat Kilmarnock. Anyway, they drew with Celtic at Parkhead. That's how we went to Pittodrie the next day and failed to take full advantage. We drew up at Pittodrie, so they've definitely got it in them to get a good result against the top teams. They're definitely dangerous. I think Motherwell at Fir Park, it's more historic. They always give us problems. We won there twice last season. The 2-1 win with Lundstrom and Tillman scoring, that was awful. That was the final days of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's reign. And then we beat them under Beale towards the end of the season, or just before the split. That was, I think we were a goal down in that game. Then we come back to be winning 2-1. Then it was 2 each. We eventually saw it out. I think 4-2. Todd Cantwell scoring that day. But they give us problems. But we won both the games at Fir Park. We beat them at Ibrox as well last season. It's just, from that playoff game, maybe even back, when we were the ones that were playing off against a Motherwell who were in the promotion relegation spot, second bottom of the league, second bottom of the top flight. They pounded us at Ibrox and at Fir Park. They beat us in that League Cup semi-final. Remember, Pedro Caixinha was our manager, Stephen Robinson was their manager. But I remember even when we come back from Manchester, having lost the UEFA Cup final on the Wednesday night, I was at Fir Park straight after that as well, and we drew there, and that was straight away, that was affecting our chances of winning the title in a close title race that season as well, with Peter Lawwell's Celtic up to all sorts of off-field histrionics to make sure it went their way. There's been a few draws over the years at Park, but it is at Fir Park for Rangers, but it is 21 years since we lost it. It was Boxing Day 2002, and we lost there to that James McFadden goal, since we lost there in the league So even if we do lose on Christmas Eve, you know that it's Rangers won the treble the last time they lost a league game at Fir Park. So there's always that to look forward to. Listen, folks, I'm not going to start wishing you all the Merry Christmases and festive season stuff just now, because I will be back, and hopefully I'll keep it a lot shorter than this. This is far too long to be talking to you when you've got Christmas nights out and all start the big weekend celebrations. But hopefully I'll be back on Sunday. I'll definitely be back on Sunday after the game with a quick post-match reaction pod, and hopefully it's all good news to get us properly into the festive spirit. Thanks for your time, folks. Cheers.